You're coughing up the other one.
It's all good. It's not a problem.
Right. Good afternoon, those who are here and the multitudes in the crowd. Starting our Audit and Risk Subcommittee meeting for the 11th of August. Any apologies? I haven't received any. Is there anybody who would like to apologise for anything?
Lateness, perhaps.
Right. Tim's not able to be with us today and he would usually be here.
Yeah.
So he's an apology.
Have a second.
Well, is that actually meeting member? Right?
No, he's not a member, so I don't think we need to. I think we just need to note that he would have wanted to be here and he usually would be, but he isn't today. Right. Nobody wants to come and talk to us, address us, members of the public, which is a little disappointing, but there we go.
You invited some people to come and join us.
I did. I invited members of the Ministry for the Environment to listen in. So I would hope that they might be able to pop in for a moment here and there, but
It may be on YouTube.
they may be, or they could pick it up later. They could, you know. Confirmation of agenda. We can confirm that that is the agenda as published.
Happy to move over if you need that move.
No, I think I can
Okay.
confirm it
Okay.
currently. Right. Members are reminded of the need to stand aside from decision making when a conflict arises between their role as an elected representative for any private or other external interest they may have. Confirmation of the minutes. Somebody, are you putting your hand up? Kevin is moving and seconded by Kate.
Yep.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Right. Minutes confirmed. Actions. Moving to page 11. And this, what we now have, having been provided by the lovely Liz, is the actions here, and the green ones are done. And we have one which is in progress, which is to track public records, record keeping on the action register until the new records is done, and it will remain until the new system is implemented. So that's just an ongoing sort of thing, not something for us to worry about. So matters for consideration. Right, and we are welcoming to the table, I understand, Margot Anderson, Gina Watson. Am I saying Nashon? Okay.
Nice, it's Chris.
Right. Good afternoon, Nashon.
How we going?
Right. Now, what I was hoping for, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm hoping for here is that people have read the safety and wellbeing report, and that what we would like to do is concentrate on anything that might be in the report which would be getting in the way of us turning from red to a more attractive colour on our risk register. So everything that's happening well, good on you, and everything that's happening okay too. So we want to focus on the things that you think might be getting in our way, and we'll have a brief talk too about what your, and maybe Nick wants to talk to us a bit later about what colour you consider it to be as of this instant. So if I leave it over to you guys to
Yeah, so I guess the challenge with having that discussion here is that the risk register paper is in public excluded, and the risk register process is a process that ELT and councillors have been working through.
so if we just
So that is not something that this
no,
team's
but
been
if we
brought into
highlight the
as of yet.
things that in the health and safety report, which you might like to speak about, which is still a work in progress, let's put it that way. Rather than as just going well according to what we would expect.
Is there anything?
We can do, but I think you'd still have, I guess, just flagging that you would still, no matter how many controls you've got in place, you'll still have residual risk in the health and safety space. And that's what the LT have talked about in terms of the rating on the risk.
That's something we can talk about in the other part of the paper. So I'm asking with this report, because what we've had in the past is a mismatch, and I think I can say this in public, a mismatch between a red risk register colour and a we are doing really well health and safety report. And so I'm trying to get those things somehow to match up together. So if we would you like to say something?
I do know for the bit we're going to talk to later,
Yeah.
I have seen that change and come down in the paper for later. So that's sort of, yeah. But yes, but that was just.
Right. What would you like to say about your report? And thank you very much. And I'm sure you're doing a great job.
Thank you and welcome. We welcome the opportunity to highlight some of the key pieces that we've done over the last quarter. I'm just very conscious that I've just joined the team, and Nashon and Gina are more long-standing members than I, and I think we're making some really good progress. As you said, it's a case of building on that maturity, adding in the policies and practices as we need to. And Nashon, did you want to highlight some of the work that you've been doing in the contractor space? Is that of help at this point?
Yep,
Nick?
just forgive my camera angle at the moment. It's working from home, it's not that flash. The contractor management or health and safety management area. Just recently, I came on board about 9 months ago, and part of my portfolio at the moment is just working on that contractor management framework. Sort of basically just improving the overall awareness of the duties us as engaging persons have with regards to managing or setting those clear expectations with regards to contractor health and safety. Recently just engaged the services of a consultant to sort of provide a bit more support and advisory in that area, just around some, I guess, establishing a bit more of a robust framework, and then hanging some good resources off of that, that our staff that do engage and direct control and influence contractors, consultants, and the likes can use or implement to sort of meet those duties. Just you have to bear with me. I'm just familiarising again with the report the last couple of days.
In the meantime, perhaps Kate would be able to ask a question.
So stepping back, Nashon, if that's okay, I just want to get in my head when you talk about contractors and I think you used another word, consultants and something else, contractors. Who and what services we're talking about here? Because the 40% of our work is actually contracted out being buses, but I don't think that that's coming under you. And I just want to, because this is public, I either want to make that clear and then ask why isn't that? Because we have heard about the health and welfare of bus drivers, and I'm just wondering why that's distinguished, if that's okay.
I believe I can answer some of that. So contractors, that's essentially us as a PCBU engaging anyone or controlling and influencing anyone that's just undertaking work or activities on our behalf, and the bus companies do fit under that. We do have a responsibility to ensure they have robust and adequate systems in place for managing health and safety risks and reporting those or any instances or concerns they have back through to us. I have been working with the transport group just to review some of what has been happening in that area, particularly around reporting of events and then following up with those sort of corrective actions or responses to that. So that is part of contractor management. So there is an overlap there with the health and safety duties. Sorry, I'm finding a bit of a cold here. Contractors. So it really ranges within the ORC sort of operational model. We have vertical construction, or sorry, civil construction contractors, right through to we're engaging the services of scientists and desk-based consultants of very low risk sort of activities. So it's really hard to put all of our contractors into one basket just because of the range of, or the variety of activities that have been happening. And when coming on board with a bit of a different perspective on it, it took a while to sort of grasp just all of the operations that are happening in the day-to-day sort of business of ORC. So I have to work with individual teams to sort of identify how they go about engaging contractors, or if it's consultants they might be engaging, what activities they're directing and controlling, and how they go about sort of setting those expectations regarding health and safety from the get-go, and then monitoring them right through the end of that engagement, or the end of the project life, whatever that looks like. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. So to address that, we've sort of established a small project steering group, sort of with a few representatives from, we'll call it the science team, and a couple of monitoring teams, and some of our project delivery groups of about 4 or 5 people, just to help me review the contractor, the draft framework that's being presented to me with regards to how ORC might meet its sort of legislative duties in the most practical way possible, that our workers on the ground can actually, use to monitor and review that contractor management practices. Excuse me. If that makes sense.
Sean, if I could just jump in as well. Kate, look at paragraph 15. It does also report public transport related events. It talks about them coming through that reporting.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just wanted to, it was a public thing, and I don't know that I can reference a comment that was made in a non-public meeting previously about bus drivers, but I might take that up in a separate way.
Yeah, perhaps you can send us an email and we can follow it up.
Yeah, I think that needs a whole separate input. If it's a question and we want somebody to address that from our staff, they certainly can't do it today anyway. No, but I think it would be good if you followed that up by thinking what it is you think you want. Oh no, I appreciate that. Yeah. I just wanted to.
So can I just confirm, just with a very quick,
Yes.
you know, the health and safety report we do get does cover the bus contractor, not just sort of in terms of the incidents that come through, but actually health and safety practices of the contractor.
Yes, yeah, which is why I asked now Sean just to give an overview of the work that's happening in that space. We've got a project really focused on rolling out, making sure we've got good practices to ensure that our contracted service partners are actually meeting the requirements of the Act. So it's actually a really key piece for the team at the moment, and it will continue to be so. So we look forward to kind of updating you obviously in the next time we're here, but some really good progress. And I think if I can segue into a lot of investment and training that's been going on in the last quarter, and that's a key feature of just building that maturity around health and safety practice. And Gina, some good outcomes, good participation. We've got a really engaged workforce, if you like, when it comes to health and safety. They're very interested. They see the value. Is there anything you would like to add around that training piece?
I would say, since we've gone through COVID, what that kind of caused for us was a bit of a backlog in terms of, the number of people that needed to be trained. But now, following a solid 6 months of kind of mostly even sailing, we've got a really great coverage, overall safety confidence across the organisation now, which is a really good, strong standpoint to be at.
Yeah, we see a lot of staff now reaching out for that advice and guidance, and I think, and forgive me, Amanda, I've only been here a short time, but it's been a piece that's been in the building for at least the last couple of years. So it's really good to see that proactive engagement. That's a really healthy indicator of that mainstreaming of health and safety practice throughout the organisation. And the other part I would probably mention out of the report is probably not so exciting, but it's absolutely key to good practice is the rolling out of the new system that we procured last year is really helping incredibly with the incident reporting and the monitoring of that and ensuring managers are actually responding to incidences and are closing them off within acceptable timeframes. And those near misses are also recorded, so we make sure that we're across what things we need to put in place to avoid any actual incidents. So really good progress, I would say. Amanda, did you want to add anything in terms of?
No, I think that is a really good overview, but if there were specific questions.
Yes,
you could answer
absolutely.
specific questions.
I think, yes, yep.
Just a question with regards to the whole COVID scenario over the last couple of years and dealing with the pandemic was new to us all as an organisation. So going forward from a health and wellbeing perspective, is there a slightly different approach now that we've experienced COVID in terms of looking out for the employee you're shoulder to shoulder with, whether it's in the office or on the field or whatever? Have we learned anything from a health and wellbeing perspective? I know you've learned heaps, but what's the main key going forward? Is it the mental health aspect, ensuring that everyone's doing okay and listening to their physical vibes that they're getting and making sure they make the right decision for themselves rather than thinking that they must be here for the organisation, those sorts of things?
Very good question.
Specific, so I think over COVID, and actually we're still, so our continuity management group is still meeting fortnightly at the moment, because obviously coming through the winter, we've had quite high levels of sickness, quite high levels of COVID over the last month to 6 weeks. So our sort of operational management group is still meeting, still reviewing our settings and checking that managers and the team have got what they need to, continue to keep operating. I think it's been a really useful lesson, and I think there's probably, from my perspective, and ELT may have different views, 3 key things. One is the sort of the physical work environment to keep people safe while still managing that service delivery, but also linked to that business continuity and prioritisation. And so look, if you've got half the team away, you obviously can't deliver everything. So how do we prioritise that? So I think that's developed and been a learning. I think the mental health piece, absolutely. And I think there's only going to be more and more research. In fact, Rebecca Webster, the team leader who's since resigned, she's currently doing her master's, and there's going to be some really interesting learning coming out of that around the mental health impacts of flexible, of working from home, that sort of prolonged periods of isolation and what we need to do in that space. So we'll certainly be looking to all of that and looking to adjust. And I think the third thing is just how we've managed it operationally as an organisation. I mean, obviously COVID was a global pandemic, but just this week we've had emails from the Ministry of Health about measles, and that measles is currently something that is looking of concern. Obviously monkeypox is circulating. We've got a few cases in New Zealand. So I think that broader, once we're through this winter period, we'll be taking the opportunity to review that broader pandemic settings, but also just our obviously it doesn't have to be a pandemic for us to have a response. And so we offer flu shots, and there's some of our standard health monitoring and support that has seen us through this period as well.
And except we're not out of the woods yet, but no, thank you for that.
Perhaps I would invite you together with this report, and part of the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because they're good reports and they fill you full of good thoughts and things, but we just don't want to spend too much time on them. It's sort of like your mother doing your washing or something. It's, you only notice it when it isn't being done. So it's not that we don't appreciate that you're doing our washing for us, and that how crucial that is, because the whole organisation falls apart. But when you're doing a report next time, it might be useful for that to have a table with it showing sort of highlighted strengths, highlights, whatever, issues and how we're addressing them, so as that somebody could pick up the table and just say, yeah, those are the things we understand which things are concerns to you and therefore should be concerns to us, and which things you're very proud of and are going well, so we understand those too. So if you could perhaps produce that in some sort of table
Yeah.
form.
And lift it up.
And that would, because we don't want to, what we have been doing is spending quite a lot of time on health and safety, which just gives us a wee warm glow because we ask questions and find out how wonderful you are, which is
Right.
useful. But I've promised today, although we've started late, that we won't be finishing late. So
I'll lose it before we go to.
Oh, yeah, just.
and you've got
following on
one
from that.
small question, Kevin.
Yeah, I've got several on this before. Hey, I think the key thing that we need from that is really when you have got an area that you're trying to focus on, or you've seen an issue, that we actually understand what that is and understand when we need to jump in to support that, and whether that's through funding or just allowing things to happen. So I think that is really critical. I did have one. So of the 17. It's just interesting me about the contractors, because of the 17 events recorded, 11 of them were actually contractor events. So should we be rating that differently? In that if it's a contractor event, it's our health and safety report and our residual risk and the likes, but should we not be having two separate parts, one being our organisation, one being our contractors? Because to me, it sends quite a different set of alarm bells.
And you're referring in terms of how it's captured in the risk register. Am I
Yeah,
understanding that?
because of like the residual risk of and so 4 of them were wild and conifer events. So the residual risk there is still a tree falling on you and you're getting quite hurt. But
I don't think that the distinction you're making is a useful one, particularly.
wow.
I mean, we're responsible for them all anyway.
Well, I
We're
don't know
not,
if you- I don't
we're
know if you
slightly
actually
differently
are.
responsible,
Yes.
but we are very definitely
Yeah,
responsible.
PCBU.
We're politically responsible. We're actually responsible in a serious sense, and we're responsible for managing the contracts that ought to be. So in some respects, trying to sideline those things.
Well, one part we can control, and the other one part we don't control.
Yes, we do. We're responsible.
Now we're responsible to ensuring that they have in place the correct health and safety procedures to undertake the task at hand, and that we have advised them of all the risks that we know are part of that job.
Perhaps you could try with the table I'm suggesting you do. If you're concerned about some things, for example, you might be concerned about some things and say, our contractors are actually having a lot of events that we're concerned about of this sort. I mean, if you're concerned about something or very pleased about something, tell us enough about it to know whether that's something we can, is actively within our 4 walls sort of, or whether, so would that, when we get a table that talks to the highlights and the lowlights and the concerns and the learnings and moving forwards things, that if we, because in that case they'd be different, wouldn't they, whether they're in the 4 walls or. Would that satisfy you, Councillor?
Oh, I'd go some way to doing that.
Well, that's as good as we can
Yeah,
expect.
that's-
Right. I think Andrew's moved that we note this. And Andrew has seconded that. All those in favour? Aye. Right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Amanda, why do we only do our engagement survey every 2 years and not every year?
That is a good question. I think that, Margaret might be able to help whether that's best practice. That's just the
Have a
model
think
we've
about that.
undertaken. I
I'll
mean, they're
ask you that next time.
expensive.
Okay, I've got an answer, but we can come back to you. It's really up to the organisation. 2 yearly gives you a nice longitudinal comparison with your indicators. Do it too frequently, you know, too much data, but
Yeah, I've probably come from where it was getting done twice a year,
right, gosh, hadn't seen that.
which especially in a growing and that was in a growing organisation that went from 300 to 600 odd people.
Right, okay, so
Was that a
And
full engagement survey? Was that more
Or
pulse
a
surveys?
pulse check.
Because our engagement survey is quite substantial,
Yeah,
so
that's-
asking people to do it
yes, I
twice a year would
do
be.
them.
In your own time.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor.
sorry, thank you.
You've heard the views expressed of one member of our committee.
No resolution passed.
Right, 7.2,
It's
corporate policy overview report. It's you again, Amanda. What would you like to say about this?
I think we'll probably take it as read and answer any questions that anyone might have. Nick,
Right.
actually Nick.
Yeah,
is
the bulk of it is just the standard policy overview where we just put in the policy table and just note what policy activity has happened in the last in the internal policy space in the last since the last meeting. So that's the standard piece that we've just outlined what's happened there. But there is a piece that Amanda's added, which is why her name's on it, which is in answer to the email questions that came up around the working better together policy. And so Amanda's just put some information on that paragraph or two in there and then attached those policies. So that's why she's in there as one of the authors as well.
Right. Mr. Douglas. This started from a discussion earlier in the committee. Are you happy with where this has landed, if I can say land?
It was good to see the policies and see the content of them. And yes, the content looked good. And it was good to get the update of what has been happening. And then also a couple of areas, or one particular one that you are working on, which is just around collating some information and data to provide to audit and risk.
Yes.
So that was the.
And I was thinking perhaps we could move that we note it and also ask that the developing dashboard data reports to audit and risk from and including the first audit and risk meeting in the next training.
Yes, that's what we were aiming for, because I think looking at this did
That's
highlight
the
that we
feeling,
provide
yeah.
health and safety dashboard data, but we don't actually provide the people dashboard data. So we're working through that, and I mean obviously it'll be fairly high level from a privacy perspective, but useful.
So it was our job to make sure these policies were in place, and it seemed a little bit confusing that we thought wasn't one, but now we understand these are there and here they are, and peachy terrific. So I'd like to move that we note it and that we note that staff will start providing that dashboard data for the working together better framework things from the first meeting of the next training audit and risk meeting. Seconded by Andrew Douglas. All those in favour?
Aye.
And thank you for that. It's always worth having a look and collating different bits of, because sometimes the bits, as a judge said once to one of my ex-colleagues, the papers were not proximate so much as to be called a file. They can be separated. Good to have them all together. What's that? That was Alistair Patterson.
The judge.
And he said, what about your file, Mr. Patterson? And he said, this is a paper. Wouldn't be so proximate as to call them a file. Right. I think we've now finished the public part of the agenda, and I'll move to exclude the public from the items under. Oh, okay. For the reasons described in the end of here, which are various, as in the order paper. Seconded by Councillor Malcolm. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.